The Book of Genesis, the story of beginnings. The Book of Genesis is the first book of the Bible, laying the foundation for the grand narrative that unfolds throughout the Scriptures. Its storyline is divided into two distinct parts, chapters 1 to 11, which narrate the story of God and the entire world, and chapters 12 to 50, which narrow the focus to God's relationship with one man, Abraham, and his family. These two sections are intricately connected by a pivotal story in chapter 12, often referred to as the hinge of Genesis. This structure not only organizes the book, but also offers profound insights into its overarching message and how it introduces the broader biblical narrative. 1. Creation, order from chaos. Genesis opens with a breathtaking depiction of the universe's origin. In the beginning, there was formlessness, void, and darkness hovering over the surface of the deep. But God, through his powerful word, brings order out of chaos. "Let there be light," he commands, and light pierces the darkness, marking the first step in a meticulous process of creation. Over 6 days, God crafts the heavens, the earth, the seas, the vegetation, the celestial bodies, the animals, and finally, humanity. Humans, called Adam in Hebrew, are created in the image of God, a profound concept that signifies their unique role and purpose within creation. Being made in God's image means reflecting his character, embodying his values, and exercising stewardship over the world. Humanity is not just another creature. They are appointed as God's representatives, entrusted with the responsibility to rule over and care for creation. This stewardship involves harnessing the earth's potential, nurturing its resources, and fostering an environment where life can flourish. God blesses humanity, a key theme that reverberates throughout Genesis. He places them in the Garden of Eden, a paradise brimming with beauty, abundance, and harmony. The garden is not merely a dwelling place. It is the starting point for humanity's mission to cultivate and expand the goodness of creation. However, central to this idyllic setting is a critical choice, symbolized by the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Up until this moment, God has been the sole authority defining what is good and what is not. But now, he grants humanity the dignity and freedom to choose. Will they trust God's wisdom and his definition of good and evil, or will they seize autonomy, deciding for themselves what is right and wrong? The stakes are monumental. To rebel against God is to embrace death because it means turning away from the very source of life. This choice is also represented by the tree of life, symbolizing the sustaining power of God's presence. 2. The fall, humanity's rebellion. In chapter 3, a mysterious figure enters the story, the serpent. Unlike any other creature, the serpent is cunning and deceptive. The text provides little background on this being, only noting that it is one of God's creations. Yet it becomes evident that the serpent is in rebellion against God and seeks to lead humanity down the same path. The serpent approaches the woman with a question designed to sow doubt. Did God really say, "You must not eat from any tree in the garden"? This question distorts God's command, framing it as restrictive rather than protective. The serpent then contradicts God directly, assuring the woman that eating from the forbidden tree will not lead to death, but will instead open her eyes, making her like God, knowing good and evil. The tragic irony here is that humanity is already like God, created in his image to reflect his character. However, instead of trusting in this identity, the woman and the man choose to grasp for more. They eat the fruit, and in that instant, everything changes. Their eyes are opened, but not to enlightenment. Instead, they become painfully aware of their vulnerability. Shame enters the human experience, and they cover themselves with fig leaves, symbolizing the first fracture in human relationships. The next fracture occurs between humanity and God. When God approaches, they hide in fear and shame. When confronted, they shift blame. The man blames the woman blames the serpent. This sequence of denial and deflection underscores the depth of their brokenness. Despite humanity's rebellion, God responds with both justice and grace. He pronounces consequences for the serpent, the woman, and the man. To the serpent, God declares a cryptic but hopeful promise. One day, a seed or descendant of the woman will crush the serpent's head, though this victory will come at great personal cost, as the serpent will strike the descendant's heel. This enigmatic prophecy hints at a future deliverer, a wounded victor who will defeat evil at its source. God's judgment on humanity includes painful toil in work and childbirth, strained relationships, and ultimately death. Yet, even in exile, God provides for them. He makes garments of skin to clothe their shame, a subtle act of grace amid judgment. Number 3, the spread of sin and its consequences. Genesis chapters 4 to 11 trace the ripple effects of humanity's rebellion. Sin is not contained within Eden. It spreads like a contagion, corrupting every aspect of human life and society. The story of Cain and Abel, Adam and Eve's sons, exemplifies this. Cain becomes jealous of Abel because God accepts Abel's offering, but not his. Despite God's warning about sin crouching at his door, Cain succumbs to rage and murders his brother. This act of fratricide marks the first human death and sets a precedent for escalating violence. Cain's descendants continue this pattern. Lamech, a key figure in Cain's lineage, embodies arrogance and brutality. He boasts about killing a man for wounding him and takes multiple wives, treating women as possessions rather than partners. This narrative illustrates how sin distorts not just individual hearts but entire cultures. As humanity multiplies, so does wickedness. Genesis 6 introduces the sons of God and the Nephilim, enigmatic figures representing either fallen angels or tyrannical rulers who abuse their power. Regardless of interpretation, the message is clear. Human corruption has reached cosmic proportions. God's heart is grieved. The creation that he once called very good is now marred by violence, injustice, and depravity. In response, God decides to cleanse the earth through a catastrophic flood. However, he chooses to spare one righteous man, Noah, and his family, offering humanity a fresh start. 4. The flood, judgment and renewal. The story of Noah mirrors the creation account in many ways. God instructs Noah to build an ark, a vessel of salvation amid impending judgment. As the floodwaters rise, they erase the corrupted world, symbolizing both divine judgment and the possibility of renewal. After the flood, God establishes a covenant with Noah, reaffirming humanity's role as stewards of creation. He blesses Noah and his sons, echoing the blessing given to Adam and Eve. The rainbow becomes a sign of this covenant, a reminder that God will never again destroy the earth with a flood. Yet, even with this new beginning, sin remains. Noah plants a vineyard, becomes drunk, and exposes himself in his tent. One of his sons, Ham, commits an ambiguous but dishonorable act, leading to a curse upon Ham's descendants. This incident reveals that the flood, though cleansing the earth, did not eradicate sin from the human heart. The narrative then shifts to the Tower of Babel. Humanity, unified by language and ambition, seeks to build a tower that reaches to the heavens. Their goal is not merely architectural but theological, to make a name for themselves apart from God. This act of collective pride echoes the rebellion in Eden, an attempt to usurp God's authority. In response, God confuses their language, scattering them across the earth. This dispersion marks the origin of different languages and cultures, but also serves as a judgment against human arrogance. Yet even in this act, there is an undercurrent of grace, as it prevents humanity from consolidating power in destructive ways. Number 5, the promise of redemption. Despite the recurring failures of humanity, Genesis is not a story of despair. Embedded within the narrative is a thread of hope. God's promise to Eve about her future descendant remains unfulfilled but not forgotten. This promise sets the stage for the next major section of Genesis, beginning with Abraham. In chapter 12, God calls Abraham to leave his homeland and promises to make him the father of a great nation. Through Abraham's family, God declares, all the families of the earth will be blessed. This covenant is the hinge upon which the story of Genesis turns, shifting from the universal scope of humanity to the particular story of one family chosen to be a vessel of redemption. Abraham's journey is marked by faith and failure, hope and doubt. Yet through it all, God remains faithful. The rest of Genesis chronicles the lives of Abraham's descendants, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph, each contributing to the unfolding story of God's plan to rescue and restore his creation. Conclusion: Genesis and the human condition. The book of Genesis is more than an ancient account of origins. It is a profound exploration of the human condition, our potential for goodness, our propensity for rebellion, and our deep need for redemption. It reveals a God who creates with purpose, judges with justice, and loves with relentless grace. From the garden to Babel, from Adam to Abraham, Genesis sets the stage for the rest of the Bible. It introduces us to a God who refuses to abandon his creation, who enters into covenant relationships, and who ultimately fulfills his promise through the wounded victor foretold in Eden. This promise finds its ultimate fulfillment in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, the descendant who crushes the serpent's head and offers new life to all who trust in him. In the end, Genesis is not just about beginnings. It is about the beginning of God's redemptive story, a story that continues to unfold in the lives of those who walk in faith today.